Hi, I'm Agree.
I'm Harrison.
This is Bottom Line Design, and today we're reviewing the websites of YC startups. So we've got Tony from Stack AI here. So Tony, you want to tell us what Stack AI does?
Yes, so I'm Tony, co-founder of Stack AI, and Stack AI is basically a no-code tool to build large language model workflows and deploy them in a single line of code.
Very cool.
Okay.
Cool. So we want to just start off with going through some best practices, initial stuff like how's the UI look, and then we can kind of dive in a little bit deeper. How's that?
Let's do it.
Cool. So first things first, what is the KPI?
The KPI is to, mostly revenue in our case, like signing up customers, and these customers are typically companies. But we're also tracking how many people do we have in our waitlist, which is like basically how many signups we have.
Okay. And so for the website, it seems like getting started takes me where? Like, would it take me to sign up in like an automated way? Or I noticed this second CTA that's kind of like competing with it. What's this do?
Right. So the get started is to sign up automatically indeed. And the talk to us basically brings me directly to my calendar. So you can have like a one-on-one chat.
Okay. So first impressions is, I think let's just start from the top left and read it like a book. So
Awesome.
Right here, I think there's a big opportunity just to get rid of that line. I'm not sure what it does, but it's distracting. I think stack, because it's blue on the background, maybe this can be white, and maybe you just drop this down to a slightly darker blue so it pops out a little bit more. And what's nice about this is blue kind of like instills trust. It's really nice. Now, if you do that, this text is going to become a little bit easier, but watch out for this slight clipping that you got going on here.
Yeah, good catch.
Okay.
Right.
So, it's all fun and games when we can do animations, but you got to do animations well, right? So if we're coming over here, join Discord, that's good. Talk to us. Now, you have talked to us right here, and it's competing. I would just say go ahead, move Discord, join Discord to the footer where people might expect it. Talk to us. I would just say like get rid of that unless you're going to bring this element back up here, and then the docs. Let's go ahead and fill that in with an icon, but let's not actually make it an icon. Let's actually make it like a header. And within the header, you can also put different parts of your page so that it can like kind of like scroll jack.
Yeah, I was also going to chime in here that you've kind of like, you've got 4 calls to action in this top right section, right? So I think that like what Harrison said about the advice about bringing this into the header, I think you might be able to do that with all 3 of them. So you would say like stack right here, and then it would be like join the Discord. Yeah, talk with us, and then the docs, right? And then that way sign up would have like the sort of the prime uninterrupted real estate at the top right where users are already primed to go check.
And really what's going on here is sign up. Well, let's just talk about your H1. So build and deploy AI applications in minutes. Why is this unsuccessful? It's unsuccessful because it's not giving value. You need to, outside of the in minutes, unless someone is coming here and they know exactly what's been done before in the industry, just assume that they don't, and you're bringing someone on for the very first time. You can start off with an industry insight. Maybe you prime them with like, hey, this is how long it takes, and this is how long it takes us.
That's actually a really good point. So I'm understanding your product correctly. Your product allows founders to embed LLMs into their product without writing any code.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So it's like when a founder thinks about your product, build and deploy are like tasks of work. That's like work that they're doing. Whereas what you want to be doing is like talking about the value, right? Which is like,
very good point.
You guys are like AI pixie dust, right? In like a can that they just shake it onto their product as opposed to having to ground it in pestle and mortar and go out into the forest to find the pixies, right?
Now we have Jarvis over here in an animation form, but I have no, that's cool.
Yeah, it's an interactive simplex.
There you are.
But it's just that. It's just cool. I'm not actually sure what it's doing or how it relates to your H1. So if there's a stay away from cool, make sure it's functional first. Like Porsche,
And
I like that. I like that. Well, we have
Right.
a video down there below, and I think we should put it like at the top, right? Instead of using that real estate with this Jarvis kind of thing.
Oh, that's What do you think of that?
We'll get there in a second. I have some thoughts. So, so right here, your CTAs. This says sign up, but when I press this, it's probably going to take me to the same place. Keep
Same place.
your CTAs similar, but right now, if you are pre-PMF, if you're pre-escape velocity, if you're pre-100 customers, always lean in to talk to us. I bet that you convert higher on talking to us than you do on Get Started. You might get more signups, but you tell me, do you get more revenue from Talk to Us than you do Get Started?
Revenue wise, for sure, we get more from Talk to Us. Signups from Get Started, I mean, it's fundamental, no, at that point. So yeah, in that sense, they are both competing in my KPIs in some sense, no? Because Get Started gets me a lot of people signing up immediately, right? That some people just don't want to talk to people, no? And the Talk to Us allows us to. By the way, the Talk to Us, the number that you see here is the same that you have once you sign up and you get into the tool. So that gets us a lot of conversions. Actually, I get like 6 calls per day at least, and because I'm limiting the amount of calls I get. So that's really powerful. Many people go to the Talk to Us, especially the ones that convert for revenue. For the Get Started, it still gets me a lot of inbound at the level of signups, people that want to try. So some of those may not turn into customers, may just like be playing around and like testing things up.
So a few notes here. Something that we've seen super helpful for us is get rid of the Get Started button, move Talk to Us over here, make it the same color, and then put don't want to talk to a human ? Get Started, and put it in micro copy. Don't make it its own button.
I like that. Okay.
When you do Talk to Us and you reserve a date, let's say.
Now it's so full.
No. Qualify. This is a great place to qualify.
Yeah.
This is
have a form, something like that.
This is where you get rid of customers that are taking up your time or maybe even wasting it, right?
No, for sure. I have to make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, because if the bottleneck at this point is your time, Harrison's so right. This is one of those places where like design is not just about the UI; it's like the thought process behind it. That look how booked your calendar already is. That
awesome.
Next availability is like a week from now. Now imagine when somebody booked this, if you had like a virtual assistant on the back end that was like in a Slack channel that would get notified every time you got a calendar booking, and they could qualify for you, like and immediately like eliminate anyone who looks like they might be unserious or like not impactful, or maybe like de-escalate them, offload them to someone who.
Dude, I like that very much. Also, since we are also doing chatbots to qualify customers for our customers, maybe we should do the same for ours.
Yeah.
Exactly. One other final thing.
I like that.
It's a small place of product polish, but it's like authenticate is a heavy word.
Very scary.
And it sounds more like something that the developers who are building this screen have to think about than the actual user, right? It's a small detail.
And we won't. I would just make sure that it looks like it's part of the same website. So right here, you're introducing a new color, this gray. It's very dark. It's heavy, and you want to try to get people excited during a sign up flow. If they don't want to talk to anyone, make them feel excited about it. But
so like you know why this one feels a bit different is because like it's a drag and drop component for the authentication that we use behind the scenes. But I totally agree. Like that doesn't blend any well with the landing page itself, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of work to do there for sure.
So let's get back to Jarvis, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. So also before we do it, go ahead and bold this, take it out of italics, and I would just pick the top ones and don't do a ticker, and I would heighten up the logos and so it's a little bit more refined, and don't make them turn into color because you're such a new name. You don't want to be competing with people in color.
Actually,
right?
Yeah, this is a great chime in place. Tony, I think I might understand the rationale of where some of these design decisions came from. This is going to be a cold read. This is like the design cycle.
Let's do it.
Did you take a really well established brand as a reference or an inspiration for building this marketing site or designing it?
Of course, yeah, 100%.
Okay. And I'm going to cold read, I'm going to guess, was Stripe one of the inspirations here?
One of these inspirations indeed was Stripe, and
Okay.
but others as well.
Others as well. Okay.
Yes,
So the
but
reason,
like, yeah, tell me about what's wrong or what's.
yeah. Here's the tell that I see. Right. Stripe does have on one of their logos pages, like a stream of like Fortune 500 companies and famous tech startups.
Yeah,
Their logo banner, right? And I think the reason they can do that is because every single one of those is a household name. That's like it's them trying
got
to
it.
stun you with social proof. And then, if I remember correctly, also like they have a few interactive components like this built in WebGL. And what they're doing there is they're trying to establish kind of credibility that they are such high quality developers that you would trust them with your money, right?
Right, yeah.
And I think that like what you have, your challenge right now is educating your audience even more so than it is building credibility. Just like explaining to them what it is you guys do. And so while the simplex is great if you have like Medici money and you need to prove that you can build the biggest dome in Florence, I think that
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a
your
great
idea
point.
of like something more educational or explanatory up here could be quite impactful as you guys build the path to becoming a household name.
Awesome. Yeah,
I agree. I agree. Yeah, very well articulated for sure. Like I totally agree.
So we were talking about, excuse me, we were talking about maybe bringing this video up. Let's just play this video real quick. No audio. So right off the bat, I'm not going to watch this. Why? Because
Too long.
but it doesn't have to be too long if you 2x it, 3x it. And it's even better if you can maybe even give like, we were just talking to Simplified Jobs, right? So Simplified Jobs, what's really nice is they made a really, really fuzzy demo right here. So they didn't give all the details or the video or a demo of the product. All they did was simply illustrate what's going on here. You might stand to benefit from something similar. Right here, there's a lot of text. Throw that sucker in ChatGPT, ask it for a business casual tone by 50%. No one's going to read this, and then just watch errors like this. This should maybe be brought up here. Okay? So again, fuzzy, this maybe to the technical viewer, I could be wrong, but I think this is okay for a specific tool like this, because if you introduce them to maybe like a fuzzy demo or something, now they're like, okay, I actually want to see the real thing.
Well, this is actually a question for you, Tony. The person who's going to whip out their credit card to pay you guys, are they a developer or are they more like a PM or a product owner?
They are more like a PM kind of person. At the beginning, the one with the credit card is the PM, but the ones using the tool in the end are web developers.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if this website is meant to target the PM, or it's the PM that's going to be viewing this, I think that Harrison's guidance of these, like we call them product illustrations, could be quite impactful because they're already very used to thinking in idioms, and their job is mostly about like compressing details like this down to something that's easily digestible like this. Whereas if it were like a developer, I think that, yeah, you probably like this website was targeting developers. You might benefit from something being in detail.
Or is it that the developer is the champion, but the PM's writing the check?
Yeah, who's visiting the website most?
It's mostly PMs. I wouldn't say it's the developer. What we typically see as flow of information is like the PM loves the idea, thinks it's super cool, and that they will speed up their process. And then they are the champion to the developer, saying, "Hey, why don't we use this tool?" And then we get in touch with the developer in that order.
Now imagine all of this text, more or less, besides projects, data, fine-tune, deploy, all of this text like string, upload file, these fields, imagine them just being like gray loaders, like here.
Yeah.
You know, you would be able to make it so that cognitive space frees up. You know, it's almost like activity monitor and deleting unnecessary processes, so that then the PM can get to reading the copy you have, explaining what's going on in this interface.
Yeah. And what's really nice is what you can do is all these points are places where maybe someone can hover around this and they have like hot points. So it's like the connect. Maybe
Okay.
there's like connect data and it's this icon over here. And then maybe like experiment in minutes and it's the play button over here. And then deliver to users in seconds and it's the, I'm not sure where the share button is though, but maybe it's down here. But
Great. Yeah, no,
maybe,
but I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay,
More
so moving
interactive.
on. Okay, first off, before we move on, this that is so tight. Like Legos for AI, I immediately got that. But it's in such an awkward space right now. Maybe bringing a little bit more prominence to this. Something to think about. Okay. So compose applications, fine tune. So I knew that these were clickable, but they didn't totally look clickable. The way that you can get around this is just bring a slight outline to this so that,
Got
it
it.
looks like a tappable button. But let's go back. So compose applications. Again, you want to lean into like maybe fuzzy illustrations here, not all at once. You're trying to give your users a snack, not the whole kitchen, right? Okay,
Got it.
3%. And then look at this, 80% of our fine tuning is spent. This should be in bold and in H1 or H2, right? You want to like really
Right. We are missing an H1 there for sure.
also bring a little bit more padding in here so that there's some places for your eyes to rest. Yeah. Okay. So this is it.
Now,
Right.
missing ingredient here, Tony. Check this out.
Uh-huh.
There should never really be a scroll view anywhere within your website where there is not a CTA visible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
always pairing insight with action.
I don't know if you guys even noticed this, but when Harrison got to the bottom, he did this. He like I don't know if it shows up in the screen share, but he like scrolled bumped up against like the bottom.
It's like I'm convinced. Okay. I'm convinced
to go further.
I see.
What do I do? Where do I tap?
Yeah, where do I go next?
There's
right?
and you should
Fair.
have this up here anchored so that it's always following you.
Mhm.
And the sign
Okay,
up.
so top bar anchored and some call to action at the very end also.
Yeah, and put a footer in there as well. And it's a great place to also put the Discord, the documents, and the Zoom as well.
Exactly. And the call to action not just should be at the end, it should be in every section. There should be another call to action because it's
Okay.
Yeah, so that way, like every section, when they get to it, they're like, "Listen, I'm sold." Like when they get to when the customer gets to the place where they say, "Shut up and take my money," like you want to have like a button for them to click so that they can get started and get to that checkout screen, right? But because like I think that here it's like we naturally want to go further and see more. We're curious, and it's like giving them an immediate gateway.
Like for right here, this would be a great place. This is an awkward ending. Right here, this would be a great place to view docs.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So like viewing docs, right? I know like Stripe does very, very similar stuff on their site. They make the CTAs contextual to the sections that they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here would be like view docs. Right here might be like get a demo. Right here might be like learn more.
Sorry, I also want to highlight Tony, you are so underselling yourself. Holy crap. Like I saw you hit 1,000 citations in Google Scholar. Huge congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
if Talk to Us is a CTA, boy, better that be there. Tony, like you're gonna get 30 minutes of an MIT PhD's time to talk about how to add AI pixie dust to your product. Like that. Yeah, like your calendar's gonna start flying off the shelves at that point.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Wow, guys, that was so insightful. I'll definitely deliver on that as soon as I can, because that was really, really useful. And there's some stuff that is really easy to implement at the end of the day. So thanks for that.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, of course. Do you have any questions, by the way, before we wrap up?
No, I think it was super clear. I mean, please share the link to this video, and I'll definitely share with my team as well, because I want to review this like very carefully.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Tony. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Hey everybody, I'm Agree.
I'm Harrison.
And this is Bottom Line Design. We are reviewing YC Startups' websites. And today we've got Chris and Raphael from Deskimo. So let's just pull up your guys' site. So can you tell us what Deskimo is?
So Deskimo is an application that gives you on-demand access to workspaces professionally managed workspaces across Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the UAE. We work with companies that have moved hybrid during the pandemic or following the pandemic, and now want to give their employees basically a way to work from outside the corporate office and outside from home. So we provide them with near home office space that they can access freely and unrestricted. So they can go to the places like Reaches, WeWorks, Spaces, and just work from there for however long they want. And then their employer basically covers their bill.
Interesting. So you guys are almost like an Airbnb style marketplace for co-working spaces in Southeast Asia
Yeah, yeah,
and the Middle East.
it's not too far from what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
And is it only for businesses?
So as an individual user, you can also just download the application and add a credit card and get going. But we basically put all our BD effort into signing up companies that then provide a budget to their employees.
Okay, very cool. And so, just before we hop in, what is the main KPI? Like, what does success look like when someone comes onto your site?
Yeah, I would say the main thing is for them to create a business account. So that's what we try to encourage. So we, as Chris mentioned, like anyone can just create an account and use it on the go, but it's not what brings us the most revenue. So we are really focusing on having companies finding us, ideally through website or word of mouth. They just create in 2 minutes a business account. They get an access to all the employees to access like all the Deskimo workspaces, but with a account from the company with a company credit card, and then they can just work from anywhere. They get a consolidated invoice end of the month, and we manage everything for them. So ideally, it should be a very simple onboarding process. So they come to the website, they understand quickly what it's about, and then they start using very quickly with all the employees.
Okay, very cool. All right, cool. Let's hop into it.
Yeah.
All right, so we can start just from the point of like best practices, starting from the top left down to the bottom right. So just looking at this logo, this may be one of the first times that I've seen like the standalone logo on the right hand side of the text lockup. You may want to consider like following that convention and bringing it over to the left hand side. And yellow is really, really tricky, right? Because yellow kind of gets lost. And so you don't see a lot of definition. And so when you're dealing with a logo that has a lot of detail in it, you may run the risk of not having it be as memorable as you would like. So maybe not for, it's not necessary for finding PMF, but maybe when you hit that Series A, maybe thinking about redoing this logo or keeping the shape but changing the colors. And then there's also context around like current events. I'm sure you didn't pick it, but like these are Ukraine's colors, so there's like subcontext there. But I don't think that's a big deal in the long run. Hopefully the war ends soon. So so let's check it out. So for business, this text raises up pretty high. I think like usually when we're looking at affordances, like affordance queues, you have three going on right here. So the first is you have the chevron. The second is the animation floating up. And the third is the text changing to blue. I think you can get away with not having the animation. Not only is it going to allow just for two, which is the highlighted text and the chevron doing its thing, but it's also going to make the site just a little bit faster, right? Because animations just bog down anything. I think this is okay how you have this, but overall, I think the aesthetic of this is just a bit dated. And I think what's making this dated is just like the gradient, the soft blues, and also like the thin text going into bold. But I think with a nice font pairing, maybe some like waveforms, maybe something a little bit more progressive instead of like lines. So that's it from the UI front. But then we can hop into like the text. But did you want to say something?
No, I mean, I think that there are visual improvements for sure to be made. I mean, one thing I caught also is like how you'll notice you guys are using a PNG for your logo. It's not a super complex logo, so I think it'd be pretty easy to convert this one into SVG. And this will just make it so that on any screen resolution, your guys is, like the logo is the face of the company, and it'll never ever risk being blurry. And then other stuff, is like I think that it passes the squint test actually quite successfully. That like when you squint on this page, you'll see pretty immediately like you should be going to try Deskimo for business. you're also kind of giving a subtle cue of like who you're trying to serve,
Yeah.
what they're trying to do. This is not something for like necessarily freelancers who need a replacement for their coffee shop. You're really trying to find um, those customers who are in the business case. One final thing I was going to say is if you look at this section, this above the fold, this part is like this white space that goes into the next section. Um, it's an easy fix, I think, to just like make it so that all of this is the first section, or change the design so that it doesn't feel like there's any risk that this gets clipped. And
Maybe
it's
it almost like fades into it. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's like you want to continue scrolling, whereas right now this almost looks like it's cut off. And
yeah,
I can only imagine what it must look like on mobile. But it right now just looks like it cuts off. The way that you can get around that is by leading the visuals downward. So either extending this down into the next section, or a gradual fade, similar to this, but in reverse. And then I also say, like, for the H1, handpicked workspaces near you. I'm not sure how differentiated that is. I mean, when I look at this, I think of WeWork, I think of just other co-working spaces. What is it that is going to bring me in? Why is it that handpicked workspaces near me is important? Maybe start off leading with that. Now, the pay per minute, I've never seen that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I
That's
think I
pretty
mentioned
unique.
I think I mentioned that on Bookface. Like, I've never seen that. That may be a lead. I mean, depending on how important it is to your users or your prospects, maybe leading with that might be something to consider. And then right here, you have a great opportunity to make it really, really personal. So you were saying that you're out in the wild right now. Like, I would say, like, call these people out. If these are really the workspaces, call these people out and maybe say, like, hey, this is Tony with X company, part of a 53-person workspace. Make it really, really tangible. Make it like real for us. And instead of just maybe not for photos, but bias towards photos where it looks like the person can envision themselves. So maybe it's just one photo with, maybe it's like this photo with 3 people, and then you're calling out who these people are and what companies they're part of and how many seats that they have in the organization. Maybe something to consider, but let's move on. Oh, and then one last thing. It is convention. This is the first time I've seen it on the left-hand side. Most people are used to having help on the right-hand side. It may just be something to consider. And it's also been, a couple minutes that we've been on the site. Auto-populate a text, a message that comes out saying, hey, looking for pay per minute workspaces, how can we help? Like, we have, or entice them. Hey, we noticed that your location is around this. There are 4 spaces. Would you like to see them? Something like that.
Right.
Why use Deskimo? So right off the bat, like, I'm seeing something here where it's a bit of a no-no. One, it almost looks like a different site. Outside of the blue and the yellow motifs, it almost looks like a different site. And I think it's because you're introducing illustrations for the very first time, where previously it was not introduced. And so that could just be a little problematic, because someone cognitively is just trying to go through something with like a flow, and now they've been interrupted. They may not immediately address it, but deep within, they know that something's been interrupted. And I'm noticing there are no CTAs. So what you want to do is, whenever you have a piece of information, you always want to couple it with a CTA, because you never really know when someone's going to be convinced of something. I think that also you could stand to have this header kind of stickied and anchored to the top, so that it's following you. So it's just another access point to, and maybe it's not log in. Maybe you actually swap this out, try Deskimo. Like, maybe you have it at the top right corner right up here instead of login, and then login is over here. And then you can scooch these over to the left, drop about us to the sitemap, and then have a little bit more room cleared up.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you guys think so far?
Yeah, so far all makes a lot of sense. I think some of the things we've considered ourselves with, like, the logo colors and these kind of things. It was just not a priority for now. Or like, it's good enough for now. But post Series A and other things we haven't considered. Also, the point with start introducing now these illustrations that we didn't use, and also a sticky nav bar. Yeah, all very valid points.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. I mean, we totally redid this website, by the way, like probably 1-2 months ago. So the previous version was much worse. But and then when we think we have it right, then we get a ton more feedback. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
Because
right. I mean, yeah, I
constant
think that like
improvement.
a lot of the foundations are there. You might notice that like the reason we're able to get into such specificity is because like the core stuff is being done correctly, right? I mean, like you guys are showing what the product is going to look like, or the most important part of the product, right? It's not like you have it super focused on the app, because you guys have an app that really is about unlocking the space, right? And so you're doing that here above the fold. You're also like I mean, yeah, you've got this pretty differentiated like offering with the pay per minute. That might actually be something that you want to emphasize even more in the H1,
especially in this inflationary environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think leaning into what everyone's thinking about. You may even want to consider something up here where it's like, I'm not sure if you go through it down here, but as a user with this macro environment, everything's expensive. I would love to see a cost breakdown between WeWork and other competitors, and how you have to pay maybe half day or a full day or a month,
right,
or like weekly, versus Deskimo, which is pay per minute, and then showing the cost savings, bonus points for making an interactive calculator,
Mm-hmm.
Bonus points for that. So right here, you have a video. We see this quite often. I never know what's going to happen when I press play.
Yeah.
It also does a little bit break convention that the play button's over here. And it wasn't hard to see, but it was just breaking convention. Let's see what this does. This is more so like
it's like a pitch. It's almost like the stuff that would happen in the marketing site is now being put into a video, rather than, let's say, a focus in on like just how it works. I think that a video is a really impactful opportunity for you to just explain how the process works, rather than sort of like repurposing some of the messaging that you guys have in your marketing site. But
you guys also do hardware as well, is that right?
Only this scanner, so it's more like a tool that's connected, but it's not like the core focus.
Okay, interesting. And what? So is it that you guys own these spaces or rent them out and then sublease them?
No, so we're totally asset light. So when you talk about Airbnb, that's a good comparison. So initially we started with professional workspaces, so co-working being, let's say, 80% of the inventory. Now we have more alternative spaces, like some companies' offices, hotel lounges, airport lounges. So we're totally asset light. We connect, supply and demand, and we try to make it very seamless. So it's whenever you download the app, you scan your code. You don't have to fill in any paper. You don't have to take out your credit card or anything. We try to create a bit like an Uber or like Airbnb experience for fractional workspaces.
Right.
Sure.
Okay.
Very cool. Yeah. So this is quite nice. So I was just doing this, right? Naturally, as a user, I would expect if there's something off the page. With today's touch devices, everything needs to be scrollable, even if it's on the side. I'm noticing these chevrons, they kind of get lost because the visual noise in the background is a bit hectic, thus fading away, like already a low contrast color, which is yellow up against white.
Right.
And these chevrons, just keep this in mind. Like, it's blurry right here. It's not an SVG, and the spacing's a bit off. Optically, it's centered, but visually, it's not. And I think if you're only going to have 3 photos, you may not even need this functionality. I think you could just get away bounding it to the screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Discover workspaces easily. Search and filter by location. So by really the second line, I've given up. Like this, I want a snack, not the whole kitchen. You can just go ahead, as a good rule of thumb, keep everything, keep your headers under 50 characters, keep your subs under 120, Now here, I think we talk about this often, right? But first things first, this is not centered. Like this entire asset right here, it's not centered to the page. And so when you're using words like handpicked, immediately you you are setting the stage up for everything's bespoke, details are considered. And so I'm going to look at the site as a reflection of how you guys operate as well. And right here, this is not centered, but that's not a big deal, but just something to keep note of. And then I would say like this is fairly overwhelming to be reading all of this at once. I think like you could probably get away with just showing the highlights. Like you could probably just get away with showing this asset with a nice diffuse shadow, and then right here the check-in button like off to the right or something, and then like showing like the distance that it was like instead of 15.52 just 15 km.
I think that there's a lot of information going on here, and you guys don't need to you don't need to have all that information to get your point across, right? And in a way, this is like sort of you're going to consume a lot of attention budget with somebody pausing here to just see like, oh, Singapore, oh, like 9 to 6 p.m. And maybe, one version of this that you do is you show one example of this, and then the rest are just like sort of almost like product illustrations where it's like they sort of summarize with like gray bars or whatever where the text would be. So that's one option.
And we call the term for that is like a fuzzy illustration or like a fuzzy mock. So it's not giving away everything, but it's just giving away a little. And again, right here, I know this style. It's almost like in the same style, but it's still different from this. And I think it's the color palette that's being used. And
I think it's also the gradients.
And it's also the three-dimensionality. We have three-dimensionality right here, whereas it's flat right here, except for these fingers overlapping. So keeping the illustration style, again, it's just a subtle cognitive load that someone has to do to remember that they're still on the same site, that they have to now weigh, like, are details like this going to carry over into their operating model?
Right.
Or is it going to affect my work when I just want to go in, find a beautiful space, and I want to work? I thought you guys handpicked this, but
right.
Using the word handpicked, it invokes a lot of stuff that's like bespoke. Okay, just was instant check-in. I would get rid of the name. I think like you're already, especially if you have a header, you people already know. They have it in the URL. They already visited it. They clicked an ad or whatever. They already know. So just instant check-in. It also saves you a bunch of characters. Eliminate. So you want to stay away from negative words. Eliminate tedious registrations and manual invoicing with ease. Just say registrations and invoicing with ease. Very simple. Step 1, open up the app, tap check-in. A QR code will appear on the screen. Step 2, scan the QR code. Step 3, get to work. This almost seems not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's like something that like you guys either would have this or you would have the video that explains what it does. But I don't think that you would necessarily need both. I kind of bias towards perhaps this. I don't even know if it needs to take up as much space as it does, but like I think there's something here. One of these things can get eliminated, either this like explainer or the video that sort of walks you through, because it's like they're kind of communicating the same thing, right?
And to that point, I think also like I would love to see more of an emphasis. It would be really like, now that we've gone kind of through everything, like I'd really love to see, really your main selling point is the spaces. But so far, I haven't seen those spaces really put up on a pedestal outside of these small images. I wonder potentially if you could, while highlighting the pay per minute, because that's your differentiator, if you could put more, like maybe a segmented controller up here where it's like Singapore, and then all the different cities that you're in. And then you could have like a mini gallery. And then if you tap into that gallery, it has a highlight of all the different amenities, or maybe like the spaces available in real time or something being pulled from like Whale Sync through Airtable. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said here that like you guys kind of obfuscate, maybe not intentionally, but it seems like it's hard to tell where you guys service. I mean, there's this like locations page, but do you guys have like is it something where you're at a stage where you're trying to just like go global right now, or do you know for certain that you really want to go city by city?
It
Yeah,
is,
so yeah.
yes, it is market by market and within the market, city by city. So, it's because it's workspace by workspace that we sign up as a partner. So right now, we try to increase kind of like the regional coverage in Southeast Asia.
Right.
But so we're in 5 countries right now. So we are slowly globalizing, but started with regional approach.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, in that case, it also is pretty natural that you would probably want to showcase the quality of coverage you guys have in each of these regions. Because I imagine if it's a marketplace, that's going to be one of the central value props. Is just like, you know, uh, okay, like when I think about a workspace, my first question is, do you have any in New York? Because that's where I am, right? And if they're in Singapore, they're probably going to wonder, do you have any in Singapore? And they're going to want to see, like, whoa, if you have like a dense map of coverage, that kind of becomes a value prop. And if you don't, it also becomes kind of like an obvious thing that could become prioritized so that you can make the best pitch possible to the customer.
Do you guys have a mobile app like in the App Store?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually the main product. Yeah.
So yeah. So I would just say like, and there's no code ways that you can do this. Free services. We used to do it in one of our previous startups, but when someone comes on to this site, there are services out there off the shelf for free that can identify if you're on an Android or an iOS, and then it will serve up the native the native bar of like download the app.
Yeah.
So it's stuck at the top. And I'm not sure if you guys have that on mobile, but if you don't, definitely worth considering. It will just drive a bunch more traffic to downloads. Right
Yeah,
here. Oh yeah.
we have it actually on the mobile version. So
You do.
you have
Okay.
here on the desktop version, you have to try Deskimo for Business. But then if you open it on mobile, it would show you either the Android or the App Store download button.
Okay. Wonderful. Reserve your workspace in one single tap. When I read that, I went to go tap,
Yeah.
but nothing happened. So I would definitely say like, keep in mind what your copy is about to prime a user with, right? Like in this case, single tap. Well, no taps there. I think like this blue. I think the reason why it's invoking such a dated response from me is because this blue is very reminiscent of Google's Link Blue, which came out in
Yeah.
like the early thousands, late 90s. And so I think like subliminally, I'm like kind of associating it with that. But you guys did a great job talking about like putting text here up against a neutral background and really making it legible here by bringing this gradient. It's just maybe this gradient isn't as sophisticated of a color or like a reflection of like the colors that are trending today. So download the app. Where? where are those badges that I'm expecting right here? Go ahead,
Yeah.
put those badges in there, give a star ranking. If you guys have a star ranking, put that up. And then another thing is I would love to see a trust banner here. And I would love to see testimonials kind of sprinkled throughout, but maybe testimonials also belong here as well. So, okay, let's see. So Y Combinator. So it's almost like a trust banner right here.
Yeah. Now here, this should be a link. These should be links to your Y Combinator profile, and this for your product hunt launch. And I would also say like you could just say
Well,
no,
they got the badge as well.
yeah, that
Yeah.
a product hunt has that interactive badge, and it'll show you guys as the number 3 product of the day.
Yeah.
So I think those are great ways that you guys could establish social proof, and this actually this will help you guys with SEO. If SEO ever ends up becoming like a significant channel, because Google doesn't just look at backlinks to your website, but it looks at links like outbound links from your site to determine like what it's about, and will probably help you guys rank better for like things like Deskimo or co-working space.
Yeah. And then right here at the bottom, this is quite long. This is your perfect opportunity just to give one sentence, right? One quick sentence, kind of wrapping it up. It's your last ditch effort. And then right here, there should always be CTA. So we kind of covered that. because you never really know when someone's going to be convinced. And it also serves another purpose. When you go into your analytics or Hotjar to see a heat map of how users are using your site, you're going to be able to go back and see where did they get convinced, and you're going to be able to refine and bump up that copy or that content to the top so they hit it quicker. But fellas, I hope that this was helpful. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, one question from me is like, so you suggest like a lot of removal of text to make it lighter, make it easy to digest, easy to read, which makes a lot of sense. What is the impact on SEO on that? Not having kind of like, search engine indexing all of that text and maybe like picking up one of the sentences that, then gets ranked. Is there a risk that we run with that?
I think that like ideally what you would do is you would have sort of keyword dense text elsewhere on your site rather than on the homepage. The homepage it's kind of like the entrance into the house, right? And so you want to clear that as much as possible, just so that it's cognitively easy to parse for people who get there. But chances are, what's going to happen is that most SEO is going to be to your other content, which is picking up other keywords, and your homepage is really going to be receiving direct traffic where they type in like Deskimo.com.
Outside of that, I've heard from others that like other SEO experts, Google's basically all these companies' algorithms are so sophisticated at this point that they know when they're kind of being bullshitted, right? So they know when a sentence has like filler words or SEO words,
Yeah.
and it actually can work against you. So the name of the game is just produce good content, speak clearly and concisely, and it will get picked up. Mr. Beast's motto is like, just produce good content, and like it's going to get picked up by the algo. So we kind of follow that tenet, and we also like to share it along with other founders. But guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I'm Harrison.
I'm Agree.
And this has been Bottom Line Design. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.